We can, okay. So let's talk about name. So name essentially is a string, okay? Then you have something which is your phone number, which will be an integer, okay? Then you have something which is, the next thing that you have in there is email. Email will be a string. Then you have something which is, they call it phone number. Address. Address will be a string, okay? You know, so how do you check? So name is a string. So how do you check basically if it is a, if something is a string? You remember we did ASCII. So what is ASCII? ASCII is basically, you can actually find out if a name contains space, it contains small and cap letters or characters. Okay, now assuming if I check, if I write a function basically, so I need to check essentially the value between small a and capital Z essentially. So that means A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on till Z, and then A, B, C till Z. These are values that I need to check. That's one way of doing it. Okay. The second way of doing it is essentially you also check for each character, but checking for the ASCII code, you are checking between a number range. So let's assume A has a particular value, and Z has a particular value. If your character that you are checking, if your character that you are checking is between A and Z, essentially, then your alphabet is actually valid. The name is valid. Now, I'll give you an example. So, if I am checking my name, that means if I am checking name, assuming I write 123 King, do you think this name is correct? I'm assuming probably not because you have 123 in there. So what you do is you go character by character. Okay. How do you go character by character? So remember there was a command called character at I in a string. So whatever you go from 0 to number of characters in the string. Okay, you go from 0 to number of characters in the string. So assuming it was 0, 1, 2, 3 king. So this is basically a string, and these are all the characters in the string. So this is 0, position 1, 2, 3. There is no space. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6. So you go from 0 to length of string essentially. So you start from here and you go up till here and check if any of the characters don't fall in this range. If they don't fall in this range, what does that mean? That means if they don't fall in this range, that actually means that they are not an alphabet. If not in range, they are not an alphabet. Does that make sense? I need to go back. Okay, so they are not an alphabet. Okay, so that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try see if we can code this. I'm assuming you want me to code this. So let's try doing repl.it. I'm getting it set up, so give me a second. Okay, my replets. I'm going to share my screen. Share. I'm going to cancel that. So I'm assuming everybody can see my repl.it screen. Okay. So let's do this repl.it screen. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to say CPSC, CSPC 06 2329 week 9. So I'm going to create. So I have that folder, CSPC week 9, and I'm going to create. So I'm going to create Java, and I'm going to create validating. Okay, validating arrays. So first step first. So I need to read your name. That's the first thing. So I'm assuming everybody is looking at this. So how do we? So first thing. So we read. So I'm actually going to not read names. I'm just going to put them. So I'm going to say string your name string array. So your name is equal to. I'm just going to name them here. So say uh, John King. Okay. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 test, which is not a correct name. And then I'm going to say James Bond, which is correct. Okay. So these are the 3 strings. You can read them using scanner, or you can read them however way you want it. So I'm just showing you another way of doing it. So you do name Bond. And what do? You say class CSPC 2329. If you have questions, stop me. The chat window is there to stop me. So if I want to validate my name, so how do I validate my name? I create a function. So I say public static. Now I need to know whether my name is okay or not. So there I use something which is called Boolean, basically telling me true or false. Then I'm going to check name, and I'm going to say string. I take the name in as an input. Okay. Now, okay. So I take it as an input. So when I take it as an input, what do I check? I can do it in several ways. So I can take a character at a time, or uh, I can do it, checking the range. Now, so we can try first thing. So what we do is we say for int I equal to 0 to I less than name dot length I plus plus. So what we are doing, so why is it not happy? So let's, it still looks okay. So it's not, so name dot length. So I'm going to check if, so I'm going to say name character at I is greater than, so let's check what the value of capital Z and small z are. Give me a second. So ASCII, I'm looking for ASCII ASCII table. So if you look for ASCII table, it tells you the codes and the numbers essentially. So it shows you something. So if I go in and I do this, Google table, so it will show me the table. So it will show me characters. So if you look at this table, I'm assuming you are seeing this table, correct? So if you look at the table, where does A start? So okay, so numbers and A. So A starts at 65 and it goes on till 90. So it has to be, oh, there you go, I have 2 more. Is the mic better now? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you got to stop me. I think.
Your mic sounds like a robot still.
Is it? It still sounds like robot.
No, now it's good. It was
Okay.
before.
Yeah. So okay. So let's see. So we are talking about. So let's see. So we have range between. So I am looking between 65 and 90, and then 97 to 122. So let's see. So I go 65 to 90. So I'm going to check is greater than 65, and let's see if this will work. Less than 90. Okay. So if this thing is there, then return true, you know, else return false. You seeing that? So let's check it out. Okay. So let's check this function out. So I say check name. So I'm going to check and I'm going to say system out println. So I'm actually showing you how to check. So string, I'm checking for the first character. I want to test. So I want to test capital A. See if it gives me true. So the first value in the array is basically name dot zero. Does that make sense? And let's see if it actually works. Let's start small. Let's see if the is basically if it actually works. So it says, let's see if it returns true or it returns false. It says it's not happy. Why is it not happy? String two errors. Cannot find symbol string. So looks like that may be one issue, and that may be another issue. So let's see if that fixes the issue. So we have length. Okay, so let's see if it requires brackets. There you go. So it says false. Is it? So that's the problem. Greater than equal to 65 and less than equal to 90. Oops, not happy. See, because that is 65, so it should give me true now. Why is it not or? It's not or because, oh, there you go. So that looks good. Or, so if this is that, and now let's check for let's check for small. So I'm going to put this in a bracket. So if this is true, or what other numbers did we talk about? So we talked about the small letters. So what did we talk about? So we talked about the small ones. The small ones are between 97 and 122. So let's look at 97 and 122. So I can take so so I can take the 97 and 122. So let's see, let's check. So if I make it capital A, will it run? Change capital A, should it run? No, maybe. There you go. So true. Now let's try putting a number in there. So I'm going to put a number. Let's see if it works. So it does not. See, this is how you check for string. Now, couple of other things let's check. So if I put, now I need to go through each character and see. Also, I need to make sure the space is also taken care of. So either it's those things and space. So what's the value for space. So let's see what space is. Space is 32. So let's see, equal to 32. So let's see if John King will return correctly. So I'm going to put 1. That means I am going to the first array, the first position, not 0, but 1. So let's see if that works. So it's a good thing. So if John King works well, let's see if 1, 2, 3 test works well. See how easy it is to check. There are several tricks you can do like this to actually check. 1, 2, 3 test is returning true. Why is that so? So 1 character at I, let's see why is it not working right. So there is a logic flaw there. Let's see, character at I, name length. So it goes, so anybody, why is 1, 2, 3 king not working right? So the easiest way to check this is, I can say system out print ln. Let's see what character at I is returning. So I'm going to do this, but I am going to do this guy, and I am going to do this guy. That means it's going to, that whole thing will be in this thing. So let's see what it does for 1, 2, 3 test. You see, it goes 1, 2, 3 T. Why? Okay, so a character at I is greater than 65 and less than 90. So 1, what is the value for 1? Is greater than 65 and less than 90. So the value is 48. So let's see what the value is. T, why is it not going up all the way? Why? Oh, the problem is that it returns true. Now it needs to return false here. So I have to say else. So it keeps on going because it's not returning false. That's the bug here. So what happens is if it's not any of these, it needs to return false. You see, that's not what it is doing. So now it should be working right. There you go. See, as soon as it checks for 1, it returns false. Now, how do I comment this out? So I'm going to try something else. Now I'm going to try 1 and see if that's actually working. Because it should pass through all the letters. And as soon as it hits something which is not in the range, it should exit. Now in this case, everything is in the range, so it goes up till J. So J, why? No. So there is a flaw here. The flaw is, so I can fool this by doing something interesting. I can fool this by putting J here. So if I do J test and I put 2, I can fool it. It will return true. See? Because what it is doing is it is returning true as soon as it comes up with something which is this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to not return here, and I'm just going to say so that's another way of doing it. So I'm going to say continue. So let's see if that works. It needs to go through every character, and as soon as it hits a character, okay, there you go. So it goes through every character and it says false because it's not right. J123 test is nobody's name. Let's see if it works with 123 test. There you go. See, 123 test will not work. So let's try this one and see if it works. Yep, it says John King. And let's see. Why does it return false? So this needs to fall through needs to be true. That means if none of them, so what happens is if none of these actually fall into this, and none of the characters fall into this, it needs to be true. So now it should be okay. Because how that actually works is, I will share with you. So I'm going to stop share here and I'm going to share this with you. So let's go over it a little bit. So how this actually works is, so you have, say, John space King, you know. So what this does is it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So all these, this is true, it doesn't do anything. This is true, it doesn't do anything. Space is there, so this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true. That means if all of these are true, your answer to that function should be true. Now, if it was 1, 2, 3, John, so let's make that. So this is false, it'll come out here. Now, if I wrote JOHN 4, this is not correct. So this is true, 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 true. This is false. So it should come out as false. Now, assuming this makes sense to you now, does it make sense to you? Okay, I say Alex is saying, what about the other people? I see one more. Alex, only Alex, and only Alex understood, nobody else did. Oh, there you go. So we got few more. Now I'm going to check. So I checked names. Excellent. Now I'm going to check phone numbers. Okay. Now phone number I'm assuming is a string, is a integer. So I'm going to say int phone, and then I'm going to say phone number would be so 31066600123. Now phone could be a string too, but in this case let's put it a number. So I'm going to say this, this, and this. So let's do this though. So I'm going to do the same thing with a phone number. So how would that work? So same thing, check phone, which takes a int phone. Okay. Now there is a trick now. Now I could do phone as a string. That way it will be, I would be able to check it much better. So let's see. So if I took it as a string, I can check for a few things though. I can check for this guy. I can check for this. And I could check for all of those. So let's do string. That way we can actually make it work better. So phone has to be numbers between, let's see, 0 and 9. So it would be from 60 to 71. So let's try 60 to 71. So from 60 to 71, it, you know, it could include, so I'm going to take these out. It could also include, the open bracket and the closed bracket. So the open bracket and closed bracket is 40 and 41. So it could also include 40 or 41. Okay. So it could also include 40 or 41. And it could also include dashes if you have them, or the dash. So this is basically, so I'm going to say includes numbers and brackets and dashes. What's the value for dash? Dash value is 45, and or it could include 45. And dash, which is numbers. So this is between 60 and 71. This is 40 and 41. And this is 45. Similarly, I can put a comment in here. So it says A to Z, which is essentially 65 to 90. Also, this is numbers, so this is ASCII and bracket ASCII, ASCII. And similarly, let's see, so ASCII, ASCII, and then we have small a to small z, which is ASCII 97 to 122. And what do we need? Then we have space, which is ASCII 32. So I'm assuming, so check phone. So let's see how phone. So I'm going to check phone. So I'm just going to do this guy. Check phone. So let's see if it checks for 0 and says it's true. Ah, so many problems. Why is it so many problems? So let's see. It doesn't look very happy. Check name, check phone. So let's see, something's missing, name. So this has to be phone. 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 Okay, so it says John King, true, and 3 it became false. Why did it become 3 false? It has to be true. So if it's greater than this thing and less than 71, so let's see, what am I missing here? Greater than 48 and less than 57. That's greater than. Let's see if it's correct. Greater than 48 and less than 57. Now that should work. See, the idea of putting the system out character, it actually shows you which character is actually reading. There you go. So it will return as true. Now let's see if it returns the next one as true. So I'm going to run the next one. See, that's another way of actually checking if you do not want to take in inputs. It is true because the spaces it said was okay. Now let's see if it does the brackets also. There you go. So brackets also it does. Now I am going to put a space in here. Will that work? And the answer would be, so I'm not checking for 32. So that means it will not work. You see, so I'm not checking for 32. I could though technically put the number like this. If I wanted to validate it, I would add space also, you know. So spaces are actually allowed, or space, if I wanted to check for that. So that way I could check for that if that number is okay. So it allows for all those. You see, it will end as true. It will go through, check all of them. Yeah. So now this is not right, but like putting a bracket in there and it'll mess it up. But there is a that you could probably do on your own time. To check for if one is available, then you do the next one, opening and closing, but not required for the class. You could do this, and this will also work. So there you go. So the next thing we check is email. So how do you check email? Gmail is going to be string. So there are two things that need to be in there. So we are checking. So they have to have two things always. So email would be, say, mm, email will be no special characters. Email will only contain, say, name at, say, gmail.com, and we can say to name to at gmail.com. So we're going to check for a few things. So we're going to check some things and say name underscore last name at gmail.com, and then say name underscore at hotmail.com. So few things that we need to check in here. The first thing we need to check if there is an at the rate. The second thing we need to check if there is a dot in there. So let's check for at the rate. How do we check for at the rate? So we go through all of them and we check. So if it's a text, it's fine. If it's underscore special characters, it's okay. So we check for at the rate. How do we check for at the rate? So I'm going to say, I'm going to make a copy of this function and say check email. Okay, string email. Okay, so I'm going to say email Okay, and then I'm going to say email. Okay, so I'm going to do two things. So first I'm going to check for, so this is 48 to 57. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to check is essentially if there is an at the rate. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go through, I'm going to check. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say Boolean, say at rate is equal to false to start with. And I'm going to say Boolean dot is equal to false. So I'm checking for at the rate and I'm checking for a dot. So how do I do that? So I'm going to say email. So email, what is the value of at the rate? This is slightly different from the videos that I posted before, just to give you more exposure on error checking. Let's see. So at the rate is 64. So the value needs to be 64 for at the rate to be true. So I have to go through all of them and check for at the rate. So 64, that means at rate is true, and I don't need an else there because, and then the second thing is I will probably need to go through this again. And check for, so this is checking for at rate. I could do this though. I can do it in the same loop. So let's do it. I check for at rate and I check for, see, I'm using an if. So it checks first for at rate and it checks for dot. So the dot check for at rate and check for dot in the email. So let's see. Dot would be 46. So let's check for 46. 46, check for dot. So dot is true. Now, your email is correct if both of them are true. So how do I do it? So I could say and. So I do a bitwise operation. So I can say at rate and dot. See if that actually works. Let's see. So that's a bitwise operation. So there you check for dot. Why is it not happy? If I need to get this out. Get this out. So if you want to repeat something, let me know. Okay, so Hotmail. So there is an issue. Because this is email. And let's check for email. Email, I'm going to check for the first one. So let's see if it actually works. Okay, so it's saying false. Why is it saying false? If both are true, then let's try this. 46. Why is it giving 310? Because I am doing phone. Let's try. There you go, true. So if both of them, if I remove the dot, will it give me false? There you go. So that's one way. So let's try the other one. So let's try 1. And then let's try the second one. There you go. That's true. Now I check for this. If I miss the at rate, so if I remove the at rate, it should give me false. There you go. So I'm going to say, so this up. False. So I'm assuming now this is okay. So I'm going to comment out this guy. And I'm going to comment out this guy. I'm assuming everybody is understood. Anybody wants me to repeat anything, let me know. Okay, now this will check. I just need to check and make sure. There you go. So it gives you true for email, gives you this thing for false, and then that's how it is. Any questions? So let's take